Kevin Gray of 105.3 The Fan on the 105.3 The Fan YouTube channel. You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. And you can catch me on the weekends on your home of the Cowboys and Rangers, 105.3 The Fan. The Dallas Cowboys get back in action on Sunday against the Minnesota Vikings at 2-7. It has been a season of tragedy and comedy and just plain pathetic football all season for America's team as they become America's joke in a lot of ways this season. A team that's got a negative 13 turnover differential, gives up 32 points per game, has given up the most points of any team this season in the National Football League. Try to salvage a season that appears to be lost on many fronts after losing its starting left and right tackle in Tyron Smith, and also in La'el Collins, of course. Dak Prescott going down with an ankle injury. Andy Dalton, Ben DiNucci, Garrett Gilbert all have played quarterback this season for the Dallas Cowboys. But much of the focus this week has been around number 54 on the defensive side of the football. A defense that is about as porous as any in the National Football League, and that being one Jaylon Smith. Reports are that Jaylon Smith could be looking at a 7-game audition to try and remain a Dallas Cowboy going into next season. If the Cowboys decide to cut him, he would be $9.4 million of dead cap. The Cowboys owe him $9.8 million next season, which means the Cowboys, if they cut him, actually save. After his breakout year in 2018, Jaylon Smith has been a model of inconsistency for the Dallas Cowboys. Concerns in that same report say that a lot of folks around the building feel like Jaylon Smith's concerned too much about his businesses and his swiping and all the other things that have driven Cowboys fans mad this year as far as his play is concerned. So when you start thinking about Jaylon Smith and whether or not he's going to be a part of this football team, there are several things that you have to think about on whether or not this Cowboy will remain a part of America's team going forward. One, will Mike Nolan remain as a part of this organization as a defensive coordinator? They've been asking Jaylon Smith to do a lot of different things this season that aren't necessarily his strengths, trying to shed 300-pound tackles and trying to put himself in a position where he's making plays. His game isn't built on reading and reacting. His game is read on being able to get after and go downhill, to make plays with his instincts and go after the quarterback and play as a mercenary and get after folks. It's not what he's being asked to do. He's being asked to diagnose and make plays off of those diagnoses, and he hasn't been able to do that. Of course, it's a miracle that this guy has even been able to play football as it is after the horrific knee injury that he suffered at Notre Dame. But again, one, will Mike Nolan be around this defense to coach next year to where Jaylon Smith is still being put in those positions? And two, will Jaylon Smith have a mindset change? One thing that I've started to learn about Jaylon Smith is that the power of positivity for Jaylon Smith is none like we've ever really seen when it comes to a Dallas Cowboy. You can't have a mindset that doesn't allow you to be positive 24/7 to think that you can come back from the kind of injury that he suffered. But one thing about Jaylon Smith that we've seen this year, and really over the last couple years since his breakout season in 2018, Jaylon Smith still thinks he's that same player that he was at Notre Dame, even though the physical limitations and the poor play on the field reflects that he's definitely not the same player. Jaylon Smith can't make up for the kinds of mistakes with the freakish athleticism that he was able to do when he had those things when he was a Notre Dame linebacker and being a potential top 5 NFL draft pick before suffering that knee injury. So Jaylon Smith still thinks in his mind that he's that same player from Notre Dame, even though the play on the field says he has to adjust his mindset in order to fit and deal with the physical limitations that he has as a football player. Until Jaylon Smith recalibrates his mind and figures out, hey, I don't have the same freakish athleticism that I had once upon a time when I was at Notre Dame, and I had to adjust my game and my mindset to deal with the physical limitations that I have so that I'm not making the same mistakes, not only mentally, but trying to make up for those mistakes with physicality and athleticism that I don't actually have. Nothing really isn't going to change for Jaylon Smith, and that's going to be a problem. And the Dallas Cowboys, one, have to either put him in a better position with better coaching and a better scheme to actually make up for those mistakes that he has been making in defense by putting him in a better scheme to succeed. Or if Mike Nolan remains around, Jaylon Smith's going to have to readjust and recalibrate his own mindset about what he is as an actual football player. That's a guy with certain physical limitations that can't make up for certain mistakes on the field without that freakish athleticism. Of course, we bang on Jaylon Smith for the mental mistakes that he's made and those kinds of things. And when you think about him, he's not a bad guy. He's a good dude, actually. A guy who gets around in the community, has created businesses and tried to create experiences and opportunities for others around him based on his own experiences. And all those things are commendable. But when the Dallas Cowboys signed him to that 6-year deal worth over $50 million with over $30 million guaranteed, they expected to get a star, and they tried to get ahead of a guy who was seemingly projecting himself to be one of the top linebackers in the league as part of a duo of him and Leighton Vander Esch. Yeah, that hasn't come to fruition. So now the Cowboys apparently have a real decision to make about how Jaylon Smith moves forward as his part of this football team. Does he get too much of the brunt of criticism at times? Sure he does. Folks all over Twitter mentions all over Jaylon Smith when it comes to making plays or not making plays, and jied and chide him when he actually does make a play with jeering cheers. So now the Dallas Cowboys, not only in the second half of the season where they still technically have an opportunity to win the NFC East, now need one of its quote-unquote stars in Jaylon Smith to really show up the second half, not only for the sake of showing improvement in Mike Nolan's scheme, but also if Jaylon Smith can continue to improve his own mindset about who he really is as a football player and be able to match the expectations with the physical limitations that he has now. If he can find himself being more consistent in these last 7 games and demonstrating the kind of progress that we saw from his 2018 season, maybe there's a chance for him to stick around. But if he doesn't, apparently he could find himself on another squad in 2021, and the Cowboys may not think twice about it. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to subscribe to the 105 Through the Fan YouTube channel, and also subscribe to my channel at Kevin Gray Sports on YouTube. We'll talk to you later. Peace.